Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News. We've had a great response to the newsletter that went out this week already. Don't forget you can order your large print diaries and calendars, telephone book and address book through the office on 522205, and you can use the same number to contact us on any of the events we've got coming up. The first is on Saturday, the 20th of November, from 2:30 till 3 o'clock. Newport are erecting a one-off ice rink, and Site for Wight have managed to gain its own private half an hour for members with sighted guides on hand to be able to skate from 2:30 till 3 o'clock. Even if you've never skated before, this is a great opportunity to try it. There are some places left, so please do get in touch. Then, on the 25th, the Thursday, we have our Christmas lunch. This is being held at Isle of Wight College. There are only a few places left though, so if you would like to join, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And finally, on Saturday the 27th of November, we're holding our Christmas fair at Millbrook House. Many of our members have been knitting and sewing and making crafts for sale at the fair, so please do come along and support the charity and equally support our members. We do have a very busy couple of weeks coming up, and we would be delighted to welcome members to any of the events. Again, a reminder of the number, 522205. Thank you very much. Enjoy the remainder of the Talking News. Lisa.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Jail for Brazen Man Who Committed Burglary and Fraud Across the Isle of Wight. A 45-year-old man from Havant who committed a string of offences across the Isle of Wight, including burglary and fraud, has been jailed for 4.5 years. Lucas Beau Cork of Barncroft Way in Havant has been the subject of a lengthy police investigation looking into no less than 4 burglaries, 7 counts of fraud by false representation, and 1 theft carried out over a period of 2 years. Cork appeared at Southampton Crown Court on Monday, the 8th of November, charged with theft from motor vehicle on Thursday, the 5th of December 2019, after a bag and wallet containing cash and bank cards was stolen from a car parked along Ryde Seafront, burglary at Seaview Yacht Club on 7th of December 2019, burglary at Aspire Ride on Dover Street on the 9th of December 2019, during which some cash was stolen, burglary at an address on Boldner Road, Yarmouth on the 21st of August 2021, during which wallets containing cash and bank cards were stolen, and burglary at the Osborne View Hotel in Hill Head on the mainland on the 8th of September 2021. In which handbags containing bank cards were stolen. On the occasions in which bank cards were stolen this year, Cork used these to buy goods from shops and bars in Gosport and on the Isle of Wight, for which he was charged with 7 counts of fraud by false representation. The cards were used as follows: 21st of August 2021, Harvey's in Yarmouth, Yarmouth Bus Station, and Honey Hill Stores in Newport. 24th of August 2021, Co-op in Bembridge. 8th of September 2021, Bayside Cabin and Pebbles Wine Bar on Stokes Road in Gosport, and the Star Pub on Gosport High Street. Cork pleaded guilty to all of the offences and was jailed for a total of 54 months. PC Nicky Morton from the Isle of Wight investigation team said, Cork's offending in this case was brazen, often walking into premises and stealing goods in daylight hours whilst people were nearby. Unfortunately for him, a thorough investigation involving the review of CCTV, financial inquiries and identifying witnesses enabled us to place Cork at the scene of each of these crimes. I am pleased that he has now been brought to justice for these incidents, and I hope this reassures the public that we will follow every line of inquiry possible to capture those who offend in this way.
This is an article from Island Echo, read by Terry. We will remember. Services to be held on Remembrance Day and Remembrance Sunday. The Isle of Wight Council will be represented at a number of services across the island to mark Remembrance Sunday this weekend. In Newport on Thursday the 11th, a maroon was fired from Newport Fire Station on Remembrance Day at 11 o'clock in the morning to mark officially 2 minutes silence, and again at the finish. On Remembrance Sunday, the 14th of November, a service of remembrance will be held in Newport Minster, following the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock. Her Majesty's representative, Lord Lieutenant Mrs. Susie Sheldon, JP, Council Leader Laura P.C. Wilcox, and Council Chair, Councillor Jeff Brodie, will be in attendance and laying wreaths along with other dignitaries and representatives. These will include Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley, the Youth Council, Police and Royal British Legion Newport and Carisbrooke Branch President Andy Pound. The newly appointed Armed Forces Champion, Councillor Ian Dorr, will be reading the exhortation and the Kohima epitaph. Proceedings will start with processions led by the Royal British Legion from Drill Hole Road, Newport, at 10:30, and by the Isle of Wight Council's mace bearer from Newport Guildhall to St Thomas's Square at 10:50, where the processions will join for prayers before the formal service. The wreath-laying ceremony will follow before the service of remembrance in Newport Minster. There will be a second parade following the service, where the Lord Lieutenant will take the salute on Newport High Street. Council members will also be present and laying wreaths at a number of other services and ceremonies taking place across the island on Sunday.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight born actress Sheila Hancock receives damehood from Prince William. Isle of Wight born actress Sheila Hancock says she feels unworthy and undeserving after receiving her damehood from Prince William. She's been recognised for her services to drama and charity. The celebrity was made a Dame Commander for services to drama and charity and has been part of British cultural life since the 1960s, with popular roles on the television, screen and theatre. She has found new fans following appearances on Celebrity Gogglebox with Giles Brandreth and with the broadcaster on Channel 4's Great Canal Journeys. Actress Sheila Hancock is made a Dame Commander of the British Empire by the Duke of Cambridge. The 88-year-old actress was not convinced she was going to be awarded the honour until the day of the ceremony at Windsor Castle. Dame Sheila was married to the actor, the late John Thaw. Her career flourished with comedy performances on the BBC, with roles in sitcoms including The Rag Trade, Mr Digby Darling and Now Take My Wife. In 1972, she landed her own series, But Seriously, It's Sheila Hancock. As well as her acting career, Dame Sheila has worked extensively for charity and has campaigned for improving education, especially for children from poorer backgrounds. Speaking about her early efforts at acting, she said, "I'm ashamed to say I was plain and covered in spots and too tall. You weren't allowed to be tall when I was young. And the head boy of another school asked me to go to a school dance because he'd seen me in the school play. And I thought, I'm going to get a series of boys asking me to dances if I go on the stage. So that's my noble reason for going on the stage."
This is an article from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Sue. Increase in antisocial behaviour on the island, despite lockdowns. Despite lockdowns and restrictions to keep residents indoors during the COVID pandemic, antisocial behaviour, ASB, on the Isle of Wight has increased. In figures revealed by the island's Community Safety Partnership, CSP, 2,438 ASB incidents happened between April 1st, 2020 and March 31st, 2021, an increase in 61 reports on the previous year. It is still, however, a substantial decrease in incidents seen in 2018-2019, which saw a marked increase. Speaking about the potential causes of the increase, the CSP's operation manager, Andrew Wheeler, said the police had launched an online reporting tool that made it easier to log incidents. Hampshire Constabulary Chief Inspector Steve Swift said, "The focus was put on anybody who was moving around outside during lockdown, and it would have caught people's attention." Chief Inspector Swift said, "Once certain restrictions had lifted, I think people's focus had changed. They were more aware what was going on outside their windows, in the parks, in their streets. I am not concerned it is necessarily a worrying increase. Possibly it is just people are more aware at the time, and it is something we will monitor." The police, in a multi-agency partnership, has been working on Operation Wisteria, following concerns raised by residents and Southern Housing Group about ASB and drug-related harm in Sandown and Shanklin. The South Wight neighbourhood policing team searched 3 rooms and people at Sandham House, Sandown, and Butler's Garden, Shanklin, and completed more than 20 intervention risk assessments with vulnerable residents. A 40-year-old woman was arrested at Butler Gardens on suspicion of a Class A drugs with intent to supply and resisting arrest. A large quantity of Class A drugs were also seized. Working in partnership through its joint action group, JAG, has seen the use of portable CCTV to help residents when they had been immediate concerns for their safety, providing reassurance and deterring any potential issues. Mr. Wheeler said that the JAG ensures it is a multi-agency view and it is not just down to the police to solve the problems. With work ongoing to look at some of the underlying causes of ASB and how those behaviours can change without using enforcement or the police. The collaborative working between police, housing and the Isle of Wight Council also saw a number of early successes to tackle the ASB problems, including the issuing of 3 community protection notices and an ASB premises closure warning.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled "Southern Vectis Proudly Displaying Poppies on Buses This November." Southern Vectis is showing its support for the Royal British Legion by displaying poppies on all its buses this November. The Isle of Wight bus operator is also offering all those wearing their military uniform, displaying medals or showing their military ID card free travel all day on Thursday the 11th of November and Sunday the 14th of November. Andrew Wickham, Managing Director of Southern Vectis, says, "People across the island are rightfully proud of our country's military, as is the team here at Southern Vectis. As part of this community, we are keen to show our support for servicemen and women. The work our troops do in unimaginably hostile war zones is incredibly humbling, and we hope by proudly displaying our poppies and raising awareness for this worthwhile cause, we're backing our words with actions." Offering free travel on Thursday the 11th of November and Sunday the 14th of November to those serving, past and present, is our small gesture to make it easier for people to attend armistice and remembrance services. Our drivers will also be pulling over, if it is safe to do so, at 11 a.m. as a mark of respect to observe the 2-minute silence. The Poppy Appeal is the Royal British Legion's annual fundraising initiative, starting in late October and running through to Armistice Day on the 11th of November.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. First ever annual Isle of Wight Book Awards to be held in 2022. Alan Titchmarsh, Joanna Trollope and Hunter Davis are set to judge the inaugural Isle of Wight Book Awards in 2022, which will recognise and celebrate books that are island-centric. The awards have been born out of an idea from well-known author and prolific journalist Hunter Davis, who has a home on the island. He has started the awards with Peter Harrigan and Chrissy Lloyd of the Medina Bookshop in Cowes, and the aim is to promote interest in the Isle of Wight, as well as encouraging local authors to write and self-publish their own stories. The Isle of Wight will be only the second region in the whole of the UK with its own regional book awards. The winners will be aptly announced at a splendid literary lunch in September 2022 on Isle of Wight Day. There will be 3 categories to enter: fiction, non-fiction and children's books. You need not live on the island, and the books can be in the past or present, just as long as there is a strong element connected with the Isle of Wight. The 3 categories are being sponsored by local businesses, Hover Travel, the Isle of Wight Festival and Hose, Roads and Dixon. For the inaugural year, books that have been published in the last 5 years will be allowed to enter. However, moving forward, the annual awards will be for books published during the previous year. Submissions must be published books, not e-books. However, print-on-demand books will be accepted. Unpublished manuscripts are not eligible. Entries should be submitted by March 2022, with the shortlists set to be revealed in August. Everyone on the shortlists will get a certificate, and the winners will receive £100 each. There will be one book that will be acclaimed as the Isle of Wight Book of the Year, agreed upon by all the judges. Hunter Davis says, "I honestly do believe everyone has a book in them. Okay, possibly not fiction. Have you seen some modern novels? Everyone has a story to tell about their life, their family, their research, their hobbies, their interests. These days, self-publishing is not too expensive or complicated, so you can do it yourself and take pride in passing around finished copies to your family and friends and neighbours, and I am sure a kindly local bookshop on the island would display copies." For further details and entry forms, visit www.iowbookawards, all as one word, .co.uk.
This is Den reading an article from On the Wight. Demolition of derelict Inverness building on Ventnor's seafront underway. After decades of Inverness standing derelict on the seafront, work has begun to demolish the building and clear the site. Demolition work has begun on the site of Inverness on Ventnor's seafront. The site has remained derelict for decades, but work is now underway to clear the site by John Peck Construction. An application to construct a 5-storey building with parking is, according to the Isle of Wight Council's planning site, still pending consideration. However, previous permission was granted in 2004, along with a lawful development certificate in 2010. The owner, Mark Lilly, told News on the Wight, "When demolition is completed, we will then have to do soil analysis and other specialist tests to then design a suitable footing for the new building. Work to clear the site has been planned for later in the year, but Mark explained, "We delayed demolition from the summer until now at the request of the local businesses, so they could capitalise on the summer trade without us interrupting or putting their customers off with the noise and dust generated with the demolition process. Weather permitting, the aim is to have the site clear by mid-December."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. New plans for the site of the former Little Gloucester in Gernard. A new elevated restaurant is set to rise on the site of what was the Little Gloucester in Gernard. The Little Gloucester in Gernard has been closed for over a year after former owners Ben and Holly Cook said that they were at crossroads and made the hard decision to close. Now, a planning application has been submitted by the owners of the building on Marsh Road, Dart and Rich to demolish the existing restaurant building and build a replacement raised eatery. The proposed restaurant would be smaller than the current one, but would have a breakfast location and a space for a restaurant or cafe with internal seating for 30 to 40 people, as well as outdoor places. The application also asks to raise the existing holiday accommodation to make it more resilient to flooding, while building another residential unit as well. In planning documents for the development, planning agents said the tenant who last leased the property made considerable alterations to the building, and work has been underway to reverse those changes, including demolishing the commercial kitchen. The latest application follows planning permission granted earlier this year to turn part of the building back into a living area. 3 ensuite B&B rooms are being proposed to be retained, as the agent said they would be essential to the survival of the business. The tenants of the business would be able to occupy the residential unit proposed. At the time they announced the closure of the Little Gloucester after 10 successful years in Gernard, Ben and Holly said they were brimming with ideas and the Little Gloucester would be back when the right one comes along. The couple have since moved on to other projects, teaming up with UKSA to teach super yacht hospitality training. You can view the application 21/02081/FUL on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until the 26th of November. The development is being called before the Council's Planning Committee, as it has said to raise marginal and difficult policy issues, and will be decided Tuesday the 16th of November.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled "Sandown Abandoned, Claims Councillor, as Alliance Scrap Dinosaur Theme Park Idea." The Isle of Wight Council and its Alliance administration has abandoned Sandown, a Conservative councillor has claimed. The local authority plans to move a £33 million so-called Disneyland opportunity to another location, prompting furious Sandown South councillor Ian Ward to say the leading Alliance administration did not care about the town, nor its derelict hotels and struggling high street and seafront. At the Corporate Scrutiny Committee meeting, leading councillors said the Dinosaur Park proposal had gone stagnant and risked putting a large part of Culver Parade behind a paywall. The previous Conservative administration had proposed a dinosaur-themed amusement park, working with Dinosauria Park International. Now, Alliance Cabinet members will consider an alternative regeneration programme for Culver Parade and a new and different site for the amusement park, which the authority insists it remains committed to. At the meeting, Councillor Ward said the major, much-needed regeneration project would have helped solve Sandown's problems, and he repeatedly asked why the Dinosauria proposal was not being considered further for the town. He said a report hid the benefits of the proposal, failing at the first hurdle of the administration's promise to be open and transparent. Councillor Ward has said, The Dinosauria proposal would provide Sandown and the island with a national, if not international, attraction. It would hugely reinvigorate Sandown, the wider Bay Area, and increase visitors to the whole island. The chairman of the Dinosaur Isle Museum Trust says the proposal would warrant World Heritage status, and potential investors who are interested in opportunities the project will bring to Sandown have already approached the chairman of the Dinosaur Isle Museum Trust. Yet the alliance has offered no cogent explanation why it has been abandoned. Cabinet Member for Heritage, Councillor Jonathan Bacon, said it was simply not the case that the investment had been abandoned, and described it as opening up the possibility of investment elsewhere. Councillor Bacon said the European investors behind Dinosauria Park International were on the point of walking away. The tender process originally launched in 2018 and was further held up in June this year when the report was not presented to the Isle of Wight Council as expected. Councillor Bacon said the plans for Sandown were like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and what the investors wanted could not be provided without serious damage to other heritage assets. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Cabinet Member for Regeneration, spoke to try to reassure Councillor Ward about the Council's commitment to Sandown. She said that what was on the table was never going to work, and a new approach to the Culver Parade regeneration would be more appropriate for the area. One of the options being presented to councillors is an ecotourism approach, reflecting the island's biosphere status. Councillor Richard Quigley said the problems could be discussed further at every future Corporate Scrutiny Committee meeting until a solution was found. Cabinet will formally decide on what happens to Culver Parade and the Dinosaur Park plan when it meets on Thursday the 11th of November at 1700 hours.
This is an article from Island Echo, read by Terry. Almost 2,000 cases of domestic abuse recorded in a single year on the Isle of Wight. Domestic abuse has continued to rise on the Isle of Wight during the COVID pandemic. Figures released by the Isle of Wight's Community Safety Partnership, that's CSP, show the number of incidents flagged as domestic abuse by the police rose by 100 compared with last year. Overall on the island, more than 1,900 incidents were flagged between April 2020 and March 2021. However, it is believed not all victims came forward, as, on average, a victim would endure roughly 50 incidents before they reported it to the police. Nationally, calls to the domestic abuse helpline rose by 66%, and visits to their website 950% compared to pre-COVID levels. Nearly half of the victims on the island were aged between 20 and 39, and the peak age of offenders was between 25 and 39. More than a third were repeat incidents. There has also been an increasing trend in adolescent-to-parent violence, with 44% of abuse in family relationships coming from the son or daughter, more than a quarter of those offences being committed by teenagers aged between 15 and 19. All frontline officers and staff working for Hampshire Constabulary have had domestic abuse training. A police spokesman said the training did not just focus on targeting perpetrators, but ensuring victims are safeguarded. Regardless of whether the victim would like to pursue prosecution, support is offered to them. The CSP said before COVID it had been working to raise awareness and build confidence in communities, aiming to empower victims to seek support, as well as increasing the opportunity to report incidents of abuse. Jane Hardy, Area Manager for Domestic Abuse Services, said they were continually training community champions on the island to support, so victims are not ringing a helpline on the mainland. She said work was continuing in schools to help educate young people on healthy and safe relationships. Through various campaigns, the CSP said feedback has been positive, with an increased reach and self-referrals made to commissioned support. The Young Person's Specific campaign in July, covering themes around coercive control and respect, had a reach on social media of over 62,000 people.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Shanklin's Auckland House Hotel goes on the market. The Auckland House Hotel in Shanklin has gone on the market for just shy of £1 million. The hotel on Queen's Road is being marketed by leisure property specialists Florets. The hotel was owned by the Carr Lauren Group, which collapsed last year, leaving a number of staff redundant. In April 2021, the freeholds to 7 properties, including the 2 Isle of Wight hotels, were passed to Phoenix Commercial Property Development Limited. Purpose-built in the 1970s, the hotel's letting accommodation, 26 rooms, is arranged across 2 floors, with the majority of the front-facing rooms having balconies. The property also includes a bar with 40 covers, an adjoining games room, restaurant, kitchen and ancillary area, as well as private accommodation. In addition, there is also sufficient parking for numerous cars and an allocated coach parking spot. Florets said the hotel has benefited from an extensive refurbishment, though some minor works would need to be undertaken. A spokesperson for the owners said, "The Auckland is one of the highest, if not the highest, standard hotels on the Isle of Wight, having benefited from around £1 million of refurbishment works by the previous owners. We wish to see this prime tourist asset back in use, supporting the resurgence of Shanklin's tourism economy as the whole island recovers from the impact of COVID." The hotel is listed for sale with a guide price of £900,000.
This is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Crown Court case against man accused of fraud pushed back to 2022. The criminal case against a businessman accused of 3 counts of fraud over the installation of resin driveways has been pushed back until next year. Simon Regan, 56, of Bradford Road in Barrows Green, Crewe, was due to appear before the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Monday the 8th of November. As previously reported by Island Echo, Mr Regan is charged with carrying on the business of a company, Angel Coating and National Resin Driveways, with the intent to defraud creditors or for other fraudulent purposes. He is alleged to have repeatedly installed poorly laid resin driveways for largely inflated prices, resulting in the accumulation of approximately £100,000 in losses by around 40 customers. Mr Regan pleaded not guilty to the 3 charges at the Isle of Wight Magistrate Court back in September. The case was sent to the Crown Court, but was not heard on the day it was planned, with confirmation that the matter had been adjourned until the 4th of January 2022 on medical grounds. Mr Regan was first due to appear in court in April 2021, but the case was adjourned several times before finally being heard by the magistrates in September. The offences are largely to have taken place between September 2014 and March 2021.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Whitelink signs up celebrity chef to showcase the Isle of Wight as top foodie destination. The Isle of Wight's reputation as a top foodie destination has been given a boost thanks to TV chef James Tanner, who has visited the island with Whitelink. Several island producers are featured in a new short film commissioned by the ferry company, which follows James as he collects ingredients for his recipes. Whitelink organised the visit to showcase the island's award-winning producers as part of its commitment to supporting tourism and boosting its economy. The Ready Steady Cook chef travelled by electric car as he met farmers, fishermen, cheesemakers, bakers and distillers on a journey to create the ultimate pizza recipe with an Isle of Wight twist. Whitelink is encouraging visitors to follow in James's footsteps and has produced a handy guide showing his itinerary and a selection of his recipes featuring Isle of Wight produce. Keith Greenfield, Chief Executive, says, "It was wonderful to welcome James back to the Isle of Wight. As a company, we too are passionate about supporting local quality producers. Our Wight Taste outlets serve a range of tasty treats from the Isle of Wight, and we also offer a range of local produce for customers to buy, both on board ferries and at our ports. We are sure plenty of visitors will want to retrace James's journey in search of the Isle of Wight's top culinary offerings, and I know they won't be disappointed." James says, "I've always loved travelling to the Isle of Wight, so I was thrilled when Whitelink asked me to return on a foodie adventure. Getting the ferry is always an exciting start to the trip. Out on deck with a drink in hand, breathing in the fresh sea air as you approach the island is the perfect way to begin any holiday. From the moment you step ashore, you're never far away from an amazing restaurant, pub, farm shop, market or brewery. The number of award-winning producers on the island is remarkable, and I love sourcing fresh ingredients here to create new dishes for my restaurants." James Tanner's itinerary and recipes can be found on Whitelink's website.
This is an article from the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. New large-nosed species of dinosaur discovered among Isle of Wight bones. A new dinosaur with an unusually large nose has been identified in bones discovered on the Isle of Wight by University of Portsmouth and Natural History Museum scientists. The new species, named Bristonius simonsi, was discovered by a retired GP who was determined to prove that the two most common dinosaurs on the Isle of Wight, known as the cattle of the Cretaceous, were not alone. He embarked on the painstaking task of going through every single iguanodon bone ever discovered on the Isle of Wight in the collections at the Natural History Museum in London and Dinosaur Isle Museum, and was delighted to discover a remarkable nasal bone like no other. Jeremy Lockwood, who is currently studying for a PhD in the School of Environment, Geography and Geosciences at the University of Portsmouth, said, "For over 100 years we'd only seen two types of dinosaur on the Isle of Wight. The plant-eating Iguanodon bernisartensis and Mantellisaurus atherfieldensis. I was convinced that subtle differences between bones would reveal a new species, so I set out to measure, photograph and study the anatomy of each bone. My background is medicine, so I've studied anatomy and was always struck by the fact that the bones we find in humans all look exactly the same. I've seen dinosaur bones that are reportedly from the same species, but I've been baffled as to why they would look so different. Last year, during lockdown, after 4 years of going through boxes and boxes of bones, I decided to reconstruct the skull of a specimen which had been in storage since 1978, and to my astonishment I noticed the end of its nose was bulbous. This discovery made it one of the happiest days of lockdown, because it was a sign there really was something different about this particular dinosaur from the Isle of Wight. Then I noticed the teeth were different, with ridges on both sides. So I shared my findings with Professor Dave Martill from the university and Dr. Susanna Maidment from the Natural History Museum. We were all convinced it was a new species, so I've spent months describing it in detail. The bulbous nose could have been used as a sexual signal to attract females, or as a warning to scare away male opponents. The new species was excavated in 1978, but was found alongside a theropod dinosaur, Neovenator saleri, which at the time was the most spectacular meat-eating dinosaur found in Britain. Jeremy said, "If you want to discover a new dinosaur, go into the basement of a museum rather than the field." The finding of such an impressive carnivore all those years ago overshadowed the bones of Bristonius simonsi, so most of it was locked away in storage. Bristonius is named after the village of Briston on the Isle of Wight, which is close to the excavation site, and was home to the Reverend William Fox, a celebrated Victorian fossil collector whose discoveries had a major impact on early dinosaur research. Jeremy added, "When I was a little boy, my father took me to an antique fair and bought me a Moroccan dinosaur bone, which was the jewel of my collection." To go from being the proud owner of a piece of Moroccan bone to naming a new species in England is wonderful. Dinosaur Isle Museum curator Dr. Martin Munt said, "Our internationally important fossil collection continues to provide new and exciting glimpses into the past. Bristonius simonsi is named after the village of Briston and the original finder, local fossil collector Keith Simmons." The Dinosaur Isle collection contains many specimens collected from accurately recorded areas, which makes it of greater use for scientific study than older collections with little information associated with the bones. Because of this, the island and our collection has become one of the best places in Europe for dinosaur finds and research. Best of all, anyone can visit us and take a look at the exciting finds we have at the Dinosaur Isle Museum. The paper is published in the Journal of Systematic Paleontology.
This is Den reading an article from On the Wight. Ventnor Town Council reverse decision to scrap community bus service. Following news on the Wight's feature about the number 31 bus service, councillors have reversed their decision to cease the twice-a-week service that has been described as a lifeline by those using it. Ventnor Town councillors unanimously agreed on Monday to continue with the number 31 bus service. The motion, brought to the Town Council by Councillor Brian Lucas, Bonchurch Ward, saw councillors reverse a decision made earlier in the year to cease the service. At the August meeting, Ventnor Town councillors decided the service was too expensive for the number of people using it. However, as reported by News on the Wight last month, most passengers in their 80s or 90s told us that the twice-a-week service was a lifeline for them. Over the last couple of months, the number of people using the bus has been increasing, and at tonight's meeting it was reported that October's passenger numbers were up 24%. There was some discussion about the service being kept under regular scrutiny and that communication would take place with the service provider, Minibus Plus, operated by Tops Mops, to agree the community aspect of the service. The news will be welcome to those who use the bus on Tuesdays and Fridays to get from Bonchurch and St Lawrence into Ventnor to use the shops, GP surgeries and dentists.
So before we start the second part of the county press this morning, here's the week's society news. Our new yarn at Millbrook meets on Monday at Millbrook between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. The group are looking for new members to join them. This group is open to volunteers, members and friends, so please come along. The swimming group at Medina is every Monday at Medina Leisure Centre at 1:30 p.m. until 2:30 p.m. The group have exclusive use of the pool and are looking for new members, so if you're interested in joining, please call the office for more details. The cost is £5 for swimming. Transport is available if requested. Please call the office for more details. We're very fortunate to have Vision Aid coming to Millbrook House this Tuesday, the 16th of November, demonstrating their equipment. If you'd like to come along, we have an appointment system running, so please call the office to book your time slot. Coffee and Chat is on every Wednesday at Millbrook House from 10 a.m. until 11:30, and it's only £1 to include the cake and coffee. Come along and spend time with members and staff discussing various topics. On Thursdays, our Mix and Mingle group meet between 10:30 and 2 p.m. at Millbrook House. New members are very welcome to join us. If you want more details, please don't hesitate to call the office on 522205. Please remember that we have our Christmas dinner on 25th of November at the Isle of Wight College. 3 courses for £10 per person. If you'd like to join us, please call the office to book a space. It's limited to 50 spaces. Transport can be arranged.
And some upcoming dates for your diary. The charity have plenty of events and activities planned in the next couple of months, and we thought we should share them with you and so you can place them in your diary. West Wight Monthly Swimming is on Wednesday the 17th. If you would like to book a space, please call the office on Monday the 15th to book a space, and transport can be arranged. We've been very fortunate to have been given 20 spaces at the ice skating rink on November the 20th in Newport. If you fancy being the next Torval and Dean, please call the office and book. It's a first come first served basis. There are penguinades to help you, so please don't worry, and it's for half an hour at 2:30 p.m. We have our Christmas fair at Millbrook House on Saturday the 27th of November between 10:30 and 12:30. We will have a variety of stalls and refreshments on offer, so it's a chance for you to empty out your drawers of any items you think would be suitable to sell and kindly donate to us for this event. As always, we are very happy to accept any donations of items suitable to either sell or use as raffle prizes. Hopefully by now you will have received the latest newsletter with all our latest news. If you would like any calendars, diaries, orders must be received in the office by Wednesday. If you would like Christmas cards or raffle tickets, these are available from Millbrook House, or orders can be taken via the telephone.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by me, Howard, and
by me, Tressa.
We begin with letters to the editor. This is from David Randini of Newport. Every so often there are reports of nasty notes left on cars or people's property, so just for once it's great to have a nicer one to report. Nhs Newport contacted my wife to ask me to come in as they had something for me. What could it be? I couldn't remember ordering anything. Had I left something behind? Or perhaps they were going to use me as the next model for their menswear collection. On arrival at M&S, I was given a sweet note left for me by a young girl. She'd seen me at the Needles landmark attraction. Apparently her parents said that I'd made her holiday and she wanted to say thank you. I've managed to remember her name, which was Tilly, as she helped with a number of tricks at the Needles. These are the things that make you feel so humble and make you realise that what you can do means so much. I have Tilly's address and will send her something nice as a thank you.
And the next letter is from Yvonne Williams in Ryde and is called Seeley's Concerns. I am deeply concerned about the strategy of Bob Seeley and the trade-offs he seems to be prepared to make in order to maintain his credibility within his own party. County Press Online, 22nd of October 1921. Surrendering our rights to clean water round our coasts in return for a vague promise of more funding is short-sighted. Islanders value safe bathing and all the benefits of our well-being and the tourist economy, as pointed out by our genuinely local politicians. Bob Seeley's letter reveals a lot about the nature of government. It would appear that MPs do not vote for what's in the interests of their local community or for what's morally right. Instead, they earn points for good behaviour by calculating whether a bill is going to pass. If the margin is wide enough, they can get credit for voting with the party that they serve, which may lead to favourable funding. Sadly, as we know from the government's handling of the public finance throughout the pandemic in relation to health and education services, that money may never materialise. We must ask ourselves, whose interests are being represented, the governing party or the constituency that elected Bob Seeley?
This letter is called Working Towards Better Ferries and is from Councillor Phil Jordan, the Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Minister for Transport and Infrastructure. It's written in response to a letter from County Press reader Carl Hunter about Whitelink ferries. I can confirm that our administration is very much of the view that a public service obligation, PSO, would be a positive outcome for the island and for our residents and visitors, and we're committed to finding a way to deliver that aspiration moving forward. To that end, I've met with our MP and discussed the way forward into government with a proposal mindful that we've attempted this previously without any success. The MP has voiced his general support and we're due to meet again in the coming months to discuss a plan of action. In addition, I'm in discussions with professional transport advisors that assisted during the previous approach to government and working with them to develop our approach with the current MP. As an aside, I've had talks with Lord Tony Berkeley, who has a debate coming to the House of Lords in November concerning similar issues with the ferries on openness and transparency, on operating methods and finances, and a view on public service obligations. Ultimately, we need our MP to assist and pursue this action in government, and I will be pressing for him to find some capacity and priority to assist us in making a further approach to government. I hope this responds positively to your recent letter.
The next letter is called Spooky Goings On and is written by Carol Stocking in Godshill. I read with interest your article about haunted houses on the island, County Press, 29th of October 1921. But new houses may also be haunted. In the early 1970s, we built a house on Carlbourne Road in Carisbrooke on land that had not been built on before. We had several strange experiences there. The first being one night when my husband was working nights and I was reading in bed, the light cord for the ceiling light started swinging from side to side for a couple of minutes and then stopped dead suddenly. The next night, again sitting reading in bed, the cord started to swing round and round in circles and then stopped suddenly. There were several more different instances, including one involving our dog. This incident happened again at night when we were all in bed. The dog slept in his basket in the kitchen. I heard him howling. As I went towards the kitchen, I could see that the light was on, although it had not been when we went to bed. Before I got to the kitchen door, the light went out. I opened the door and the dog rushed out, dashed into our bedroom and hid under our bed. He was shaking and obviously terrified. I don't know if subsequent owners of the house have had any manifestations since.
This is a very short letter about solar power from Donald Campbell of Arraton. I recently drove through the new housing estate at Pan. There must be several hundred new houses, but no solar panels. Most councils in England will not grant planning permission for newly built houses unless they have solar panels. Electricity is going to be short, so our council ought to make an effort.
And another short letter called Sort It Out from Brian Wright in East Cowes. Bob Seeley keeps harping on about our Solent Ferries public service obligations. What about our floating bridges public service obligations to the island community? Our councillors need to spend less time spouting off to social media, etc., and more time fixing this busted island.
This letter is called Nail in the Nhs Coffin and is from Oliver Trench in Totland. Bob Seeley has informed NHS campaigners that he intends to vote along party lines in favour of the Health and Care Bill when it comes before Parliament for its second reading on November 23rd. This bill is the final nail in the NHS coffin. It will restrict access to our NHS, weaken safe working conditions for NHS staff, and promotes private health providers. Many of these private health providers, unsurprisingly rich Conservatives and their friends, have financial interests in. After a carefully orchestrated decade of cuts to our NHS, waiting lists have become so horrendous, many who can afford it are forced to seek treatment in the private sector as the only way of receiving prompt treatment. Unsurprisingly, television channels are increasingly awash with advertisements promoting private healthcare. When David Cameron, back in 2009, said the NHS was safe in Conservative hands, we now know nothing was further from the truth. It is regrettable we have a government that so blatantly lies, misleads, and is mired in corruption and sleaze. The pandemic exposed a government that didn't simply shake the magic money tree, but felled it to the ground in a frenzied rampage to line their mates' pockets with millions of pounds in dodgy PPE contracts. Am I surprised Bob Seeley intends to vote along party lines and not queer his pitch with his party's leadership? Not at all. Like many, Mr. Seeley is typical of the new breed of shallow career politician with a public schoolboy sense of entitlement gained from a life of privilege that's tempered with a healthy disdain for the lower classes, his constituents. Mr. Seeley would do well to reflect on the public mood before deciding which division to walk through on November 23rd. Only a supremely arrogant and delusional backbench MP messes with our NHS and expects to be re-electable.
And the next letter is called Cop Out on internet streaming and is by Tim Bristow in Ryde. Why is internet and video streaming at nearly 2% of worldwide electrical consumption to rise to 8% once 5G kicks in never mentioned in the various COP discussions as something that anyone can cut back on? For instance, 95% of global video streaming from Netflix, YouTube, Amazon, etc. apparently goes through servers in West Virginia, according to BBC Three's Dirty Internet programme, all fuelled by neighbouring coal-powered Dominion power station. So, according to Netflix, 1 hour of watching their output has the same energy requirement and CO2 emissions as a car travelling 1.2 kilometres. To put that into context, the recent blockbuster hit Squid Game, watched by over 140 million people for its 9-hour duration on Netflix, is therefore equivalent to the energy and CO2 emissions generated by 9 million cars travelling 140 kilometres per mile. And that's just one programme. Why is this issue of the dirty internet not being discussed?
This letter is called Is an Hourly Train Service the Best the Island Line Can Do? And is from Richard Ferraro in Bonchurch. I congratulate those who secured and delivered the Island Line renewal project. In the same breath, I'm concerned that the franchisee South West Trains, SWT, is running an hourly train service only in both directions, not the half-hourly service for which the renewal project was designed and funded. Is this the new normal? Half-hourly trains in the summer when tourists are here, but only 1 hour in winter for Isle of Wight residents, including school children and commuters. For sure, SWT knows that the £26 million spent on renewal included funds to construct the new passing loop at Brading. That makes half-hourly train services possible in both directions. Meanwhile, the renewed Island Line is the jumping-off point for expansion of the island's rail network. Funding for extensions is being pursued for a new line to Newport from Sandown and one to Ventnor from Shanklin. Extensive feasibility work was done last year on these proposals, funded by central government. The Council and MP Bob Seeley rightly committed themselves to the success of that endeavour. However, beware. If the message now is that Isle of Wight residents don't want or need half-hourly trains throughout the year on the Island Line, the business case for expansion will be damaged. In the circumstances, I ask the Isle of Wight Council and MP Bob Seeley to apply pressure on SWT to properly support the Island Line project and their customers. That is, at minimum, half-hourly trains in both directions all year round, starting shortly.
And more about trains. This one is entitled Timing Doesn't Make Sense, and it's from Doreen McInnery in Newport. Just a quick word to say thanks for printing our letter, County Press, 29th of October 1921. Though it was very unkind of some of your readers to suggest that me and our Eddie should go back to where we come from. How rude. Besides that, our Eddie was well chuffed. Anyway, when we moved here, we found so much to love, including the railway line. Our Eddie is mad about trains. It bores the liver out of me, but hey-ho, you got to give and take in a marriage. Our Eddie is doing my head in about your article about trains back up and running, but with an hourly train due now to low passenger numbers. To him, it doesn't make sense. Also, we are almost certain there was a half-hourly service running until one of those old trains broke down. No rail replacement service was put in place then. Did we all forget this? This article then goes on about the millions spent on building a loop to enable a train to run twice an hour. Now, no one can confuse our Eddie with Professor Brian Cox, but even he is scratching his head over this. If they ran 2 trains an hour before the loop, why is it needed to run 2 an hour now? Is the Island Line trying to hide something?
The next section is Wight Memories. The Isle of Wight Classic Boat Museum has double reason to celebrate after reaching its 25th anniversary and refurbishing its gallery. The museum began with the love of old boats when in 1975 Maurice Wilmot purchased Flying Spray, a Thames pleasure launch in need of restoration. With the help of a shipwright friend, Alistair Garland, he restored the boat to a high standard. Maurice and another friend, Peter Stevenson, both loved restoration, and in 1995 they began to look for a building to house the craft they completed. Maurice and Peter had visited the island sailing the Dragon's Mistress and Mustang with Brian Charlesworth, who introduced them to Ian Lallow. Ian introduced them to Maurice Barton and Felix Hetherington at the Isle of Wight Council, and the idea of a museum being founded on the island was formed. The museum's first site was a derelict warehouse, the former Vectis transport depot on Newport Quay, which was transformed into a museum with the aid of a Wilmot family loan and opened its doors to visitors in 1996. Kim Lyle started a friends group and a board of trustees was formed in 1998 with Brian Charlesworth, Mark Winter, Rosemary Joy and Kim Lyle as its first members. A year later the trust was granted charitable status. In 1999 the Queen Victoria rowing lifeboat was rescued with funding from private sources. This gave the museum a welcome amount of publicity and acknowledgement that it was becoming a focus for maritime heritage. Local residents began to donate their maritime artefacts. This meant a suitable premises to keep them in would have to be found, and more volunteers would be required to take care of them. And so the Classic Boat Museum Gallery was born. In 2001, the board applied to be a registered museum, and 2000 and 2004 were busy years, with many rallies attended by boats from the museum's collection. In 2004, Ankle Deep, a launch owned and built by Uffa Fox, was donated to the museum and restored by John Collis, Uffa's crewman. In the same year, the Beacon family donated a derelict launch, Rosabelle, which had carried many well-known photographers of yacht racing in the Solent in the 1920s and 30s. In 2004, the South East England Development Agency, CEDA, proposed creating a Marine Heritage Partnership Group to build a museum in the former GKN Aerospace Workshop, known as the Union Jack Shed in East Cowes. The following year, the adjacent Columbine building became available to create an exhibition space to house the growing collection of maritime artefacts. The gallery is still located in the Columbine building, but plans for the Union Jack Shed, now White Shipyard, failed to progress as CEDA was dissolved and the tasks of economic and cultural regeneration were transferred to other government bodies. In 2007, Felix Hetherington took over as chair of the trust, so Morris could concentrate on his first love of restoring boats. The first website was launched in 2007 too. Over the last 10 years, the museum had grown from a club of boat restoring and sailing enthusiasts to being a registered repository of classic boats and maritime heritage artefacts. To spread the ever-increasing workload, a management team was formed in 2008 under the guidance of Felix Hetherington. Rosemary Joy continued to form a group of volunteers at the gallery, which was slowly gaining a reputation as a venue for display and discussion. Monthly evening talks on maritime subjects were a success and attracted further artefacts from the public, including 3 collections of historic glass plate photographs.
And the article continues. In 2009, the museum applied for accreditation from the National Museums, Libraries and Archives Service. In June of that year, Maurice Wilmot died. Since its early beginnings, the museum has gone through many changes. In 2012, the boats were moved from Newport to the Albany building in East Cowes, only to be transferred to the Medina Yard in Cowes 6 years later. More recently, funds were raised to completely refurbish the gallery, which reopened on the museum's 25th anniversary in September. The museum is being digitally transformed with the addition of audiovisual material to enhance the interpretation of its holdings and a new online cloud-based record-keeping system which has been installed. The trustees want to build a museum which is inclusive, caring and multidisciplinary and is seeking partnership through its membership of the Cultural Educational Partnership and the Island Collection. The museum is widening its appeal to encourage schools, families and young people with virtual sailing experience on a dinghy simulator available early next year. The Isle of Wight Classic Boat Museum stands at the heart of the recently announced economic and cultural regeneration of East Cowes, and the Arts Council has named it a priority area. Ambitious plans are underway to collaborate with other museums on the island and to bring all the maritime artefacts and vessels under one roof. So the gallery is in East Cowes and is opening its doors tomorrow, Saturday, from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Everyone is welcome for a free visit and to hear an illustrated talk at 2:30 by Will Hodgson, who circumnavigated the UK in Nipe Gedji, a 16-foot wayfarer dinghy, in only 15 days.
Now some public information articles. By way of introduction to county press readers, I'm Steve Swift and I'm the Chief Inspector for the Isle of Wight. I'm really keen to work closely with the local community and take every opportunity to listen to your concerns and provide you with information to build your confidence in the great work we do. Due to the nature of our investigations, we can't always tell you everything we've been doing. However, there are lots of occasions where we can, and so I want to take this opportunity to highlight some of what we've been doing up to over the past month. I often read public commentary about a perceived lack of police activity, so would urge you to follow the Isle of Wight Police Facebook and Twitter pages should you wish to see more of what we've been doing. In October, officers supported the National County Lines Intensification Week, dedicated to tackling the supply of Class A drugs. Substances such as cannabis and cocaine were seized during warrants. At one such warrant in St James Street, Ryde, officers seized a knuckle duster and stun gun and arrested 3 people. If you see activity you believe is linked to drug supply, please do report it to us on 101 or via our website, as the information you provide really does make a difference to our ongoing efforts throughout the year to tackle the issue. We also supported Hate Crime Awareness a week, with teams visiting local schools and holding dedicated surgeries to highlight hate crime and the devastating effect it can have. Roads policing officers spent 3 days conducting a road safety operation on the island. Motorists were educated around being mindful of cyclist safety, and during this operation, 13 tickets were issued for offences such as speeding, careless driving, driving without a seatbelt, and driving with an insecure load. Moving on to the courts, we currently have a man charged with 9 counts of rape spanning the period 2013 to 2021. Frankie Vexay, aged 25 and from Edgerton Road in Bembridge, will appear in court again on December 10th. Tackling domestic abuse is a priority for us, and last month, 49-year-old Adam Burgess of Royal Street in Sandown was jailed for 30 months for controlling and coercive behaviour. Domestic abuse often has an immeasurable psychological impact, and it takes a great deal of courage to report it. We work with local support services to provide the best possible care for victims and encourage anyone affected by this type of abuse to please report this to us.
The next item is My View, a panel of columnists taken in turns to give their view on life as it's played out on the Isle of Wight. And this one is by Jim Gibbons, and it's entitled Cherishing the Souvenirs of Your Happiest Times. We all keep and treasure mementos of things, places and events. Some people collect pebbles from every beach they've visited. I don't go that far, but there are a couple of keepsakes which have been with me for many decades. I know exactly where and roughly when I acquired the ceramic Black Panther pictured above. I found it at Blackett's department store in the High Street of Stockton-on-Tees, my birthplace. I was not in fact living there at the time. It was shortly after my RAF service, which ended in October 1957, and I was living in London but was visiting my parents at the old homestead. Stockton High Street was thought to be the widest of North England. 2 traffic lanes plus bus stops ran along the outer strips, and in the middle stood the town hall, and on market dates there were 2, in places 4 rows of market stalls. Much of the architecture has changed, of course, replaced by covered shopping centres, and Blackett's has gone forever, but the old market still thrives. I fell in love with the Panther on sight, and on impulse I bought it for more than I could afford. Within a year, your ham-fisted columnist had knocked it off its perch and a leg broke. It was a relatively clean break, and I kept some of the bits, hoping to mend it or get it mended someday. Not today, of course, some other day. I can procrastinate for England, but I was wise not to attempt it, as I have little skill in these matters. Back in London, I met Josephine and we got married. A little later, she was tidying up and went to put something in the drawer and found a rolled-up towel in the back, which on investigation proved to contain the panther in its sorry state. She examined it, and being both confident and competent, she decided she could mend it. Without telling me, she bought a suitable adhesive and did the job. How she found the time, I don't know. Both of us were working, and I came home from the office one day and found the panther looking as good as new. Since that day, it's been keeping an eye on us from the top of a tall bookcase. The other chap in the photo is an empty now bottle of Sandelman's sherry, made in the form of their trademark. It was for sale on this island during the holiday, I would guess about 40 years ago. It may have been the anniversary of Sandeman's founding or some such thing. He shares the bookcase with the panther. Josie died earlier this year, and we decided we wanted a memorial bench for her. Thanks to the help of Councillor Karen Lucioni, we now have one. It's in the arm of Ryde Harbour, and we chose to have on the plaque something less formal than the usual names and dates. It reads, Josie's Bench. You're welcome. and you most certainly are. In my last article, I asked you who wrote Mad Men in Authority. That was Maynard Keynes. Now, where would you find the words, I often wondered what the vintners buy, one half so precious as the goods they sell.
Okay, some what's on articles now. French horn player Ben Goldscheider, described by Voix des Arts as a young man with a timeless gift, will appear as guest soloist with the Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra. Ben is a former concerto finalist in the BBC's Young Musician of the Year, and in the weeks leading up to his island visit on November 27th, he will perform in Amsterdam, Vienna and Budapest. He will perform Ruth Gibbs' Horn Concerto, composed in 1968 and described as colourful, lyrical and brilliantly written for soloist and orchestra. Opening the concert is Arnold Bax's symphonic poem, Tintagel, composed between 1917 to 19. The work was inspired by a visit to Tintagel Castle, Cornwall. Gustav Mahler's Fifth Symphony dominates the second half, written on a large scale and employing an extended orchestra. The orchestra is supporting Ability Dogs for Young People. The concert starts at 7:15 p.m. and tickets are available from the Medina Theatre.
And opera star Leslie Garrett is in an island show. Powerhouse opera diva Leslie Garrett is coming to Medina Theatre. The popular soprano will take to the stage for an evening of song, reminiscence and chats. Accompanied by pianist Anna Tilbrook, Leslie's behind-the-scenes stories and anecdotes will give audiences a unique insight into her life on stage. The date for your diaries is March the 18th next year, with tickets for A Diva and a Piano on sale now. As well as performing on the opera and concert stage both in the UK and internationally, Leslie has recently returned to English National Opera for the world premiere of production of Nico Muhly's Marnie. In 2018, she appeared in a world premiere creating the role of MC in Rhonda Rips It Up, based on the life of suffragette Margaret Haig Thomas. And in the spring of 2019, she created another new role for Ian Bell's opera, Jack the Ripper, at the Coliseum. She last performed on the island, Isle of Wight Proms, in 2019.
Now on to additional news items. This is about a 19-year-old table tennis player. There's probably no greater inspiration than seeing 19-year-old Bert Pace turn up to play Island League table tennis each week and give his much younger opponents a tough game. Bert, a retired company secretary and senior accountant at the former Westland Aerospace site in East Cowes, plays for the Ryde Rustics in Division 3. He is undoubtedly the most senior player in the Island League and quite probably the oldest to play league table tennis ever on the island. Bert of Palmer's Road, Wootton, has been playing the sport competitively for 53 years, bar an interruption due to COVID. He came to the island in 1968 and joined the British Hovercraft Company. That's where it all started on the island for Bert. After a 20-year hiatus of not playing table tennis due to work commitments and raising a family, he decided to pick up a bat again and joined the former Ryde Table Tennis Club, based at the Vectis Hall in Melville Street. The hall is dilapidated now, but it was once a hive of activity at a time when there were 7 Island League divisions. The roof leaked and you could get a free shower while you played there, joked Bert. We used to have to put a shilling in the meter to keep the lights on. Sometimes when you were in the middle of a game, the lights would go out. Bert played in Division 5 for a while before he moved up a level to Division 4, which at that time was considered a decent standard. He played in Division 4 for several years, a far cry from when he started to play the game from young boy to teenager in Gillingham, Kent, where he grew up. Clubs started to drop by the wayside, so with fewer leagues the range of abilities between top and bottom was quite a gap, Bert explained. Bert, a keen amateur astronomer who built his own telescope half a century ago, knows a star when he sees one. He once played Carl Prean. He won't reveal the result, but he once played the Islander who later became England's #1, who had Commonwealth Games and European success. It wasn't much of a battle, however. Carl was just a 6-year-old learning the basics of the game. We had a knock around and had a little game. Carl could barely see over the top of the table, Bert recalls. It was the only occasion Bert ever played him, but it's a memory he clearly treasures against one of the best table tennis players England has ever produced. Fast forward to 2021, and Bert is showing his experience by still winning matches and showing younger, presumably fitter players how to do it. He practices at the Isle of Wight Table Tennis Centre at Smallbrook Stadium, Ashy, once a week, normally on a Wednesday, the day of a league match, as his preparation for it. Even at my age, my standard is very much the same as it was all those years ago. I'm glad to say I'm a bit slower, perhaps, said Bert. I had a bet with my GP 10 years ago I would still be playing table tennis when I reach 100. Bert jokes about the challenge, but he remains fighting fit with a clear target in mind to reach it. Well, I'm halfway there. I see no reason why I can't still be playing the game when I'm 100. Come and interview me in 10 years' time, Bert quipped. Bert encapsulated exactly what sport should be all about by saying, table tennis is an extremely pleasant game to play, and you get to meet all sorts of lovely people. It's a very social environment in which to play, and it keeps me fit and active. I always look forward to playing.
And the next article is entitled Act on COP26, The World's Future is in Our Hands. And this is by Jonathan Bacon, Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Environment and Heritage. The extraordinary climate jamboree of COP26 closes this week. With all its political rhetoric, jet-set glitterati and models of immense planetary change, there's a lot to take in. COP26 is organised by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the parent treaty of both the 2015 Paris Agreement and the original 1997 Kyoto Protocol. All three seek to stabilise greenhouse gas concentrations in a time frame which allows ecosystems to adapt naturally. But this is now a truly colossal task, requiring a synthesis of urgent local grassroots action with rapid regional, national and international responses, every bit as determined as the battle against COVID. It is understandable then to feel utterly overwhelmed, but this too readily twists into the belief that climate change is the problem of people who aren't us, who are far away and out of reach. And yet the island is intimately connected to the international efforts to adapt and migrate through its membership of the family of UNESCO World Biosphere Reserves set up within the United Nations to safeguard cultural and biological diversity across a network of 727 sites and in 131 countries. We are an island, our communities are coastal communities, with all the accompanying fragilities and stresses. We face fundamental change to our own geography as sea levels rise and storm events increase. All of this we have in common with the biosphere communities around the world. Like them, we are working to deliver landscape-scale interventions for increased tree cover, natural grassland restoration, wetland and peatland conservation, and the recovery of salt marsh, kelp and seagrass into our marine habitats. Ways to better sequester carbon and, crucially, to stop emitting it in the first place. The island's biosphere status opens access to lessons learned in places where climate impact is already critical, but also gives us the opportunity to share in the common endeavour to find better ways to live sustainably. Being a UNESCO World Biosphere hardwires the island into the work of the United Nations and will strengthen all our resolve to do what we know must be done.
This next article is about an island band called Whitelink. Island duo Whitelink are featured on an Artist to Watch 2022 list produced by the world's leading music video network Vivo. Born out of Vivo's Tastemakers series and brand DSCVR, the Artist to Watch ATW campaign is now in its 8th year and comprises 21 global artists who Vivo has tipped to break through to the mainstream. With over 500 submissions, Vivo's DSCVR Artists to Watch programme is one of the most anticipated and competitive lists to appear on. The artists and bands that make it receive critical exposure and promotion that help propel their careers. Alumni include now household names such as Billie Eilish, Pop Smoke, Sam Smith, Earth Gang, Guyana, Lewis Capaldi, Arlo Parks, Maggie Rogers, James Bay, Georgia Smith and more.
This article is to do with remembrance and what's happening on the island. Poppies and other tributes have been used to dress many island shops, businesses and in the run-up to remembrance. There is a delightful tribute window at Little Art at the barn at Arreton Barns, showing artwork surrounded by poppies. Pets with Heart in Newport Holyrood Street saw owners Sharon and David Groves create a display marking remembrance. Animals were a huge contribution in the war effort, including horses, dogs and pigeons, and the store wanted to reflect that in their display the purple poppies represent animals lost in both wars. A special field of remembrance was open to the public at Carisbrooke Castle to commemorate those in the uniformed services who lost their lives in the service of their country. The work of children from 23 island schools, along with crafters from Sandown and Shanklin's Brownies, is on display at Newport's Key Arts. Over in East Cowes, crafters have been busy decorating the town, with Judith Powell and Joy Clayton-Hills guiding the way. The group has been knitting, crocheting and cutting fabric poppies for months to form an impressive remembrance tribute. A commemorative wreath board features poetry. East Cowes crafters thank Nick Greenhaig, the co-op manager, and Red Funnel for allowing the use of their fences. Thanks also go to Lee Taylor, the manager at Age UK Shop, for allowing crafter Jackie and Sunday manager Joe Keatley to create a window display. The crafters meet every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the convent. Look at the Facebook page at East Cowes Town Crafters. The Walled Garden Cafe in Holyrood Street, Newport, is hosting a 2-week Second World War themed event. The cafe is decorated and there is a black market special board of 1940s themed food and drink. There will be a collection tin for poppy appeal, and services are planned across the island for Remembrance Sunday.
The owner of a private estate in East Cowes, home to Nhs Castle, has revealed a planning application will be submitted to the Isle of Wight Council this month. In a post on its website, Nhs Castle Estate Group Limited said it will soon formally seek permission to turn the historic building on land adjacent to Osborne House into a leisure resort. The group says it will conserve the site's listed buildings, which were visited by a host of VIPs, including Queen Victoria and Kaiser Wilhelm II. Its parkland will also be restored. East Cowes residents are among those who remember visiting and working on the castle's grounds, but it was subsequently sold and closed to the public. 6 years in the making, the plan also includes some new housing on the Spring Hill estate, including the conversion of buildings within Spring Hill Farm. Nhs Castle Estate Group Limited said any new development would be limited and on what it calls 4 small parcels of land. The group said, "We wish to thank all of those who have commented on the scheme while it was being prepared. We hope you'll see that your comments are reflected in the proposal for which we are seeking planning permission." Among concerns raised at an earlier public consultation held in East Cowes and online during COVID-19 were fears about the impact houses could have on the shoreline, along with worries over increased traffic. Those in favour argue development is necessary to protect the castle and its interior. The number of extra houses has not yet been revealed, but there will be an opportunity to comment on the Isle of Wight Council website after the proposal is submitted. Nhs Castle was built in 1799 by architect James Wyatt for Lord Henry Seymour. It contains lavish interiors and an historic bath with shower designed for visitor Kaiser Wilhelm II. Queen Victoria bought the Osborne estate next door because Norris Castle was too expensive, but she also stayed there.
And the next article is in brief, the next step for Floaty. An independent review and legal mediation will determine the next step in the long battle to sort out Isle of Wight's Floating Bridge 6. After that, a report will go before the Isle of Wight Council Cabinet members in January, and the local authority will make its next move. Speaking at a recent Council Cabinet meeting, Councillor Phil Jordan, the Infrastructure and Transport Lead, said when the Alliance administration came into office in May, one of the things its members were committed to resolving was the floating bridge. Council Leader, Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox, said it does seem, after 22 weeks in, we are desperately pushing forward with this, and there is a bit of light at the end of a very long dark tunnel. The Council has taken legal action against the marine architects and boat builders who designed and created the floating bridge. There have been continuous problems since its launch on the River Medina.
This is about a special award. It's been a long time coming, but Ireland football legend and retired school teacher John Bell has finally received formal presentation of an award marking his 50 years of service on the board of the Island Schools Football Association, ISFA, after a COVID delay. John, chairman of the ISFA for more than 30 years, was presented the English Schools Football Association, ESFA accolade, an engraved silver salver, before his proud wife of 60 years, Jackie, family and friends, at a ceremony held at Yarmouth Sailing Club. George Newton, the Hampshire School Secretary, and Jeff Salter, Southampton School Secretary, paid tribute to John. It was fitting Mr. Salter should present John 81 with his award. He himself also recently completed 50 years of service to receive an ESFA award. The award itself is very rare, so it's no surprise John is the first person on the island to be awarded the prestigious accolade. ISFA Secretary Peter Giles also spoke with the genuine warmth with which John spoke and interacted with people, particularly past pupils. John, of Carisbrook Road, Carisbrook, and who grew up in the village, was a keen footballer who played for Newport, Cowes Sports, East Cowes Vicks, and Carisbrook United. He did teacher training at King Alfred's College, Winchester, with his first teaching post in Southampton. In 1970, John got a job at his old school, which became Carisbrook Comprehensive, shortly after he began teaching PE there, with geography his second subject. He ended up staying there for 30 years, spending half of that time as a head of year. John, who is well known in the island sporting community, led many teams in his time and greatly encouraged Gareth Williams, who went on to play for Aston Villa, to take his first steps in professional football. John was also integral in the hosting of the England versus Finland Schoolboy International in 2005 at St George's Park, Newport, in front of 3,000 spectators. Due to COVID, John was unable to formally receive his accolade last year. In life there are few accolades, but receiving this one was one of my best. I feel very privileged to have received it, said John. In my role as ISFA chairman, all I've ever wanted is to see fair play, take notice of players with promise, and not to complain, as there's no point in it. I've enjoyed the role and feel lucky to be able to do what I do.
And there's military training overhead. Military training exercises have been taking place in the skies over the Isle of Wight this week. Chinooks were among the aircraft spotted, and the distinctive waka waka sound has reverberated around the towns and villages below. The island's south coast was treated to something of an air show for most of the week, with formation flying also spotted. The Whitelink exercise is set to run until midday today, Friday, and smaller squadron level exercises were also running concurrently.
Planting a single tree may seem like it will make an infinitesimal difference to climate change, but it's powerfully symbolic, whether it be a community in a public open space or to individuals when they're out in their back garden. It marks a time when the tree was planted, and as we age, the sapling develops and matures with us, hopefully whether it be a magnificent Magnolia grandiflora or a diminutive damson. Wielding shiny stainless steel spades, our Queen has planted more than 1,500 in her time, since she famously acceded to the throne while perching at the Treetop Safari Lodge in Kenya. Among the first she planted was a yew sapling as an 11-year-old in the grounds of her mother's family home, Glamis Castle. It marked her father's coronation in 1937. More than 8 decades later, it's a towering giant. Now she's at the apex of the Queen's Green Canopy initiative to next year mark her Platinum Jubilee. There's a common thread to all the trees that have been planted by the Queen. Because they've been planted by a special person, most of her striplings have survived, which is sadly not the case for many of the amenity trees up and down the land. Councils tend to plant trees and leave them to fend for themselves. Cheaper to run the risk of death than employ a contractor. Maintenance is as key to longevity as preparation of the planting site and choice of species. So whether it be a community or a family tree, there needs to be a regime of watering and weeding worked out. Begin by preparing the surrounding ground, removing weeds and grass in at least a 2-foot diameter circle. Weeds will compete with the tree for light, nutrients and water. Dig a hole deep enough to fit in all the tree's roots with some space to spare, and plant the sapling to the depth it had been. Heel it in to make sure there are no air pockets that will cause root rot. It's handy beforehand to have put in a stake because it's easier to avoid damaging the roots. Now is a good time to plan for planting a commemorative tree during Platinum Year. December through until March, when trees are dormant, is best, or from October 2022 onwards. Size and spread of a tree are important, so choose the species wisely to suit the location. A newly planted tree should be watered from bud burst and throughout the spring and summer until leaf fall. During summer, newly planted trees should be watered at least 2 or 3 times a week. Bigger trees need more because they lose extra moisture through transpiration. Watering is advised for 2 summers after planting. Hopefully after that the tree's roots should have established a big enough network to take water from the surrounding soil. And then you'll be able to happily take pride in what you've achieved in marking a reign most glorious. www.queensgreencanopy.org has all the information you'll ever need.
And the last article is entitled Sports Pitch Plans for Car Boot Field by Louise Hill. The site of a popular car boot sale on Lushington Hill could become the sports pitches for Priory School. Plans for the land's change of use have been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, turning the currently vacant site into a junior rugby pitch and a smaller training area. Priory School on Beatrice Avenue, Whippingham, is leasing the pitch near the racecourse roundabout for the next 5 years, and as the sports playing field at the school is not big enough. According to the planning agent, plan research on behalf of the school, Priory has begun to mow the grass and level the bumps and hollows to make the surface suitable for sporting use. The agent said that Lushington Hill is far more suitable for school to use than its current small pitch, with students primarily driven to the site by minibus. It's proposed that the school would only use the site on 2 afternoons, with no general public access of use out of school hours. Sports England is supporting the application, but as a condition says the pitches should be made available to the local clubs. At the end of March next year, Sports England says the committee use scheme should be submitting an application approved by the Isle of Wight Council. This should include details of pricing policy, hours of use, access for non-educational establishment users, and management responsibilities. You can review the full proposals on the Council's planning register. And the reference for that is 21/01993 /FUL. And comments will be accepted until November the 19th.
And that concludes today's Talking News session. So it's goodbye, best wishes from Howard.
And goodbye and best wishes from Dresser.
The Vectors Radio podcasts are sponsored by Break the Cycle CIC, rebuilding self-esteem in people who have experienced domestic abuse. For more, email hello@breakthecycle.org.uk.
We have a guest in the studio now, don't we, Maggie?
Do we? Oh yes, it's young Chris.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. Chris from Sight for Wight, and it's the Sight for Wight segment.
Yes.
Sight for Wight, as you tell us in the ad, is the operating name of the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind.
It is, yes. Do you know, it feels like I've only just been in, because it was a month ago, wasn't it?
It was a month ago, yeah. It's just that we you haven't been in for absolutely ages.
No.
And now
we
you're
can't
coming
get rid
more
of it.
regular.
Thank you, Maggie.
So what's happening up the road there then?
Okay, well, obviously I have to mention, first of all, the story writing competition.
Yes.
The closing date is this Friday.
Oh, it's come up quick.
It has come up quick. So there is still time to enter. So if you want to enter, if you're an adult, it is 1,500 to 2,000 words.
Right.
If you're under 18, it's up to 750 words.
Okay.
There is an entry fee. For the under 18s, it's just £2.
Yep.
And for the adults, it's £8.
Yep.
So get your story in. The theme is vision. And yeah.
It could be anything about vision, yeah.
Whatever your interpretation of vision is.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Assuming, let's say I wrote a story, which I'm not entering, so.
Okay.
Assuming I wrote a story and I won, what would I win?
Oh, now there's a very good question. You could, we do have some really nice prizes. I can give you some clues. Hover Travel have kindly donated some wonderful prizes.
Yep.
Wonderful. But also we've got
Get your free hovercraft.
Yeah.
A whole hovercraft all to yourself.
well, not quite, but you get to go on it, but you might have to share it with a few people. So yeah, we've got vouchers, we've got cash, we've got all sorts of things. People, as always, are so generous, and I have to just quickly say thank you to all the people that send us something every year. Despite all the problems and the finances and lockdown and COVID-19, people are still putting their hands in the pocket.
They're very generous,
being
aren't
generous.
they?
Yeah.
Do you know how the entry's going in terms of numbers or anything like that?
It's always a tricky one because a lot of people, they don't hand in their entry until the closing date.
Yeah.
I have had some, and I did go down to Waterstones because you can drop them off at Waterstones, as I've said. So I had a handful of those, 9 or 10 just then. That was a couple of weeks ago. So I'm hoping when I go back on Friday, I'll be carrying out. There'll be a bag full.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you've had plenty in the last few years, haven't you?
Yeah, it's usually. I think the first year I did it, 5 years ago, it was. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there's no one's entered. But again, the last few days, I had this influx of entries.
And then you were covered in them.
Then I was covered in them. It's like, oh my goodness. So
that's good.
So,
but it sounds like it's true to form. Then you're going to get a load at the end of this week.
I hope so. And then obviously we'll have the award ceremony,
which is in December.
It's Monday the 6th of December in the evening at the Riverside Centre, as always.
And do any of the winning entries get recorded?
They do. Yes, thank you, Maggie. That's another prize. The winning entries from each category will have their story read and recorded by one of 4 celebrities.
Who are
Melvin Hayes, who we all know and love.
Of course, yes.
Richard Cadell from Sooty and Sweep fame.
Yes,
I think he's got a hand in that.
Oh, dear.
And we've got...
You can get your coat now.
Okay. We've got Robert Dawes and Amy Robbins. They're actually married, but both of them have been in shows like EastEnders, Casualty, Hobby City.
So they're one of those faces you'd recognise. You think, I've seen them somewhere before.
The Royal, I haven't watched the Royal, but apparently they're in the Royal. And Susan at work, she watches the Royal and she says, I know who they are. Yep, so that's good enough for me. No, I haven't.
No. I don't even know what it is.
No, me neither.
No, I don't know what it is either.
It's probably about icing, I expect.
It's apparently very good.
Good, I'm sure it is. We watch a lot of obscure shows. Other people say, what?
Yeah.
We're all the same.
Absolutely.
So that's all coming up on the 12th. So that'd be a good night. They usually are a good night. And it's at the Riverside Centre.
And there's more. And there's more.
There's more.
They get played out on Victor's Radio.
They do indeed.
Oh,
They do,
yes.
They do, yes.
Again, you kindly, every year, you play out some
But
of the
they'll
winning
probably
stories.
go out over the Christmas period.
Oh, okay.
Which is when...
And again.
Be
Be repeated.
They go out more than once, but they'll probably be played... We haven't finalised the Christmas schedules yet, but generally the winning stories feature in there somewhere. So,
and is it that they can possibly come in and be interviewed, some of the winners?
Interview people, yes.
Yeah.
Then come in and we can chat to them about what the inspiration was and everything else.
Fantastic.
Some people don't like being interviewed, so it's not compulsory. If you don't want to, then fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to come in and say, look how wonderful a writer I am, that's absolutely fine too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's always exciting. I always look forward to, I don't judge the entries, but it's lovely.
Oh, you've got mystery judges, haven't you?
Yes, we have mystery judges.
Yes.
I can't tell you who they are, obviously.
No, of course. And to be fair, all the entries, I know this because it's your procedure, they're all anonymised.
They are.
So no one knows if they're judging one from their next door neighbour or anything like that.
No, they're purely judging by story only.
Yeah.
So,
that's excellent.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. So the award ceremony is here, isn't it?
Yeah, Monday the 6th of December at Riverside Centre. Doors open from 6:30 p.m. We do have still to be confirmed. We have a choir and we have Huxley.
Oh, good. We love Huxley.
I'm just waiting to hear back from a couple of others. But a chap called Morris, he's one of our volunteers, but he also sings. He's an entertainer, so he's probably going to be our master of ceremony. So very nice guy, very funny, and a very good voice.
Good.
That's good.
Yeah, we'll have to borrow him if we do another one of those variety nights.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. So that's the story writing competition.
Yes.
Loads going on there. Shall we take a short break and do a bit more? Do you want to move on? We'll take a little break. Anyway, we're still joined in the studio by Chris Kane from Sight for Wight. You've got a few other things to mention, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, if that's okay. One of the things I wanted to mention was volunteers. Well, I'm sure you can appreciate this. We need volunteers.
Of course.
Yes.
We're particularly looking for minibus drivers.
Oh, right.
Okay.
And escorts. So if anyone is listening here and they love driving and can drive a minibus, please get in touch with us at Sight for Wight on 520205.
So driving a minibus over 21 kind of thing, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
It's maybe a daft question, but have you got a minibus, or do they have to provide their own?
Funnily enough, we do have one.
Right.
Yes.
Just a question.
Yeah, that's a good question, Maggie. Yeah. So we would really appreciate anyone that has some availability, however.
And this for taking your members on trips.
Yeah,
and things,
trips to and from Millbrook House. So we really could do with some drivers. So please, if anyone has some spare time.
Yeah.
And that would be based from Millbrook House.
Yes.
Which is in Carisbrook, more or less.
Yes, on the cusp.
Yes.
Yes.
Very nice. So volunteers, particularly minibus drivers. Okay.
Yes.
What else would you like them to do?
Also, to anything really. We're okay. We've got lots of readers for Our Talking News, so we're okay with that. But it is primarily drivers.
Drivers, okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
You don't want people to make tea, or?
No, we do that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We look after our volunteers, so we make them tea because they are very important.
I've got quite used to the voices of your news readers when we were doing the talking news on the air. You get the various names. Oh, I know that one. Yeah, I know him. I know her. I've never met any of them.
Yeah. They love doing it. They love doing it from home as well.
Yeah,
so they got
very handy that.
Yeah.
Good. So volunteers to drive minibuses.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I wanted to talk about. They're having apparently a Christmas light switch on Saturday the 20th of November.
Right.
They've also got an ice skating rink going on.
Ooh.
Now, our CEO has secured 20 places for some of our members, really.
Right.
So if there are any members or any visually impaired people that would like to come along, please get in touch with us. Obviously, there are people there to support them, so you don't have to be tall.
Here's the ice. Off you go.
Yeah. A little gentle push, off you go. Yeah. So if anyone's interested, exactly, then again give us a call on 520205, and then we can take some details and sort that out.
There's usually, I can't say there will be. Usually, ice rinks for people with additional needs. They've got support structures, haven't they?
They do. I think they've got these things. They're called penguins that you can sort of hold on to. And
like the sort of ice equivalent of a sholly.
Yes.
So it's a polly.
Could be.
Or something Ollie.
Yeah. So what's the date of that again, Chris?
That's the 20th, Saturday the 20th.
Is that an all-day thing?
Well, it's from 2:30. We've got a slot from 2:30.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the Christmas light switch on, there's tons of stuff going on there.
Apparently so, yeah. There's going to be singing and all sorts of things going on. So it should be quite a nice, fun, festive...
What we need some more of this stuff going on. We've been starved of it for nearly 2 years.
Yeah. It's so nice to see.
Nonsense stuff that we thought was just, well, this is it. I'm going to that.
People are making an effort. That's absolutely true, yeah. So, and just one more thing I wanted to mention, if I may. We have Sight for Wight having a Christmas fair at Millbrook House.
All right.
On another Saturday, Saturday the 27th of November, from 10:30 until 12:30. So we're going to have stalls, we'll have gifts for all ages, tombola, you can win a bear, we've got books.
What, real bear?
I'll check. He didn't move when I prodded him the other day, so it might not be. So we've got some gifts that volunteers and members have made, and also a Name the Giant Teddy event. So also there'll be tea, coffee, cakes and refreshments available.
Oh, well, that's it then. We're there. Tea, coffee and cakes.
You won't be there. You should be here.
You'll be here,
I'll be here,
yeah.
So what's the date of that again, Chris?
That's on Saturday the 27th of November.
Okay, lovely. We'll make sure we mention that on the morning.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thank you, Chris, for coming in.
My pleasure, as always.
And we'll see you again in a month's time.
Yes.
When it'll be nearly Christmas.
I know.
It's
scary.
Startling how quickly the year goes. We're just discussing how old we all are in fair. We think, really? We're all that old? Wow. Okay, never mind.
I'm 25.
I know, yes. That's the trouble. You look in the mirror, don't you think, you still feel like you're sort of in your mid-20s inside. Look in the mirror and think, who the hell is that?
It's true, in the mirror, you don't change, do you? You see yourself, so you never see yourself change.
Because it's every day.
Yeah.
It's every day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you again soon.
Good
luck. And just give us the phone number of Sight for Wight one more time.
The number is 52205.
You can find out anything you need to know by giving that number a call.
Yes.
Your support matters. We operate thanks to the support of local businesses. If you would like to advertise on Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, contact our team today. Marketing@vectisradio.fm.